Hi, Hanson here. I have another tech tip for you this month. We're going to go over some tips and tricks for soldering wires. I brought John with me. He creates all our secondary control units, and he's much more qualified to do this than I am, so let's leave it to John.
Alright, so here I'm going to be stripping back the wire so that we can do a Western Union solder. Normally you want, somewhere between 1 to 2 inches stripped back, just so that you can have a decent connection between the two, because you're going to be twisting them together in hopes that they won't come apart when you're finished. Alright, so this is what would be considered a Western Union solder. You would take two strands that have been stripped back, and you twist them onto each other, ensuring that there's a good physical connection between them. Alright, so this next technique I'm going to show you guys is something that you can use if you're trying to solder onto a harness in the vehicle and you just want to kind of tap in for a teed connection. I have here what we refer to as our lazy man strippers. You just place the wire inside and apply some pressure, and it'll expose the wire inside. All you would then do is take the wire that you're going to be soldering in, make sure there's a good physical contact on the harness that you're soldering to. Then you would take some solder, just kind of loosely wrap it around the joint here. Like so. Then we'll apply some pressure to the wires to melt the solder to give us a good connection. Depending on the gauge of the wire, it may take more time or potentially less if it's much smaller. Something you want to avoid is a situation like this where it hasn't fully melted. You can see sort of right around here where it's not melted into the wire, it's just kind of on top. That could cause a cold solder, which would be very bad. It has often poor conductivity and can give you very poor results when testing if there's an issue. Add a bit more solder here. There we go. Now you can see on the joint that it's pretty much all soldered well. There's no cold solders. It's gone through the strands and everything quite nicely. And from this point, what we would want to do is take our heat shrink, place it over the wire that we have soldered in, and as long as you have extra slack in your harness within the vehicle, you can bend the wire like so, place the heat shrink over top, and then once you have it positioned like so, we can just heat the heat shrink tube up. That's a relatively easy way to have a decent connection in a harness without having to cut the wires. So this is the same method here for soldering into a harness. Except this would be in the case that you don't have enough slack to fold the harness wire to apply the heat shrink over. What you can do instead is you'd want to bend the wire that you're soldering in a little bit to give you some strain relief on the joint. And then you can just take some electrical tape, wrap it around a few times, make sure that you have it covered nice and well to ensure that nothing will get in there and there won't be any potential hazards that could cause a shorted connection, like so. And then to ensure that it will not move we would always take a zip tie, tighten it up right over the joint to ensure that there's no potential for that to come off, like so.
That was our soldering tips with John. I know it's a lot easier on this desk than it is in the vehicle, but at least it gives you some ideas and tips and tricks. Thanks for watching.